Well, hello, everybody. We are now live on this very special session. If you guys can see us and hear me okay, please indicate in the comment section. Let me know. If you can see me and you can hear me, just give me like a thumbs up in the comment section, just so I know that you all can hear me. If you haven't invited people to join the live at this point, this will be a good time, because if I were your friend and I find out that you attended this session and I missed out, I'm not going to forgive you in a hurry. So go ahead and let me know, guys. If you can see me, if you can hear me, please let me know. I'm trying to look at the comments to see if people are responding yet. Hi, everyone. Fatu, Osarating, Anike, Marianne, Nokuthula, thank you. Faji TV, Cletus, Geraldine, Fate Gora, hi, girl. Okay, they can see and hear. The comments are a bit delayed, so it takes a while from where you enter it to where I can hear you. Oh, I can see it. Okay, well, I'm not going to talk too much because I feel like we're going to need the time to talk about all the things that we're going to talk about today. You guys had a whole lot of questions, and I'm not surprised. Okay, so right away, I'm going to hand this over to our guest. For those of you who are new on my channel, well, first of all, welcome. Let's not be rude. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today, I am joined by Olu of Canada, literally our Olu. Welcome, Olu. Olu is a very useful resource. If you don't follow Olu on Twitter, we're going to take a moment to pray for you when this is over, but we'll forgive you. Check out Olu on Twitter. Olu is a bondo when it comes to resources on settling into life in Canada as an international student, and it was only proper when the conversation started coming up to say, who do we want to have this conversation with? Olu was voted #1 candidate, so I'm not surprised. Anyway, that's why we're here today, to have the conversation with him, to learn from his experience, and I'll be contributing as well where necessary for us to tackle the questions that you guys have dropped in the community session, okay? We're going to jump right out in a bit, but right now I'm going to hand this over to Olu to tell us a bit about himself, and then we can get the conversation started. Olu, thank you so much for joining me today. So tell us a little, who is Olu? What are you doing here, sir? Tell us.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, Marina. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us across the world. My name is Olu. A few of you that probably know me before now, Olu of Canada. I appreciate that title very, very much. My journey into Canada, I came into Canada about 6 years ago. Originally came here as an international student myself to do my master's degree at the University of Saskatchewan. So I make a very brief joke. I used to say, I do not even know how to pronounce Saskatchewan before I got into the province. But here we are 6 years later. We're grateful to God for everything He has done for us. I came originally as an international student, transitioned into PR while I was completing my master's degree. I tell people, those of us who came in 2015 are part of IRCC's favorite people, because that was when the Express Entry program started, and we were able to leverage that opportunity to transition quickly into permanent residence and become a Canadian citizen and all that. I work mainly in the intersection of policy development and evaluation. I did my master's degree in sociology, currently also completing a PhD in sociology and social policy at the University of Saskatchewan. And I enjoy, like Marina said earlier, providing information, sharing resources with people who want to come to Canada so that they can learn from our own experience, avoid some of the mistakes we make in our own time, and do things pretty much better than we've been able to do it. So that's the centerpiece of what we'll be talking about today, and I look forward to that discussion.
Absolutely. And a couple of people are already saying it in the comments. Olu is an asset to us. I totally agree. Like, if you go on Olu's Twitter page alone, you should be able to submit an study application to schools, apply for your visa, get scholarship, learn about cold emails to supervisors. But for those of you who are not Twitter savvy, that's why we're here, just to help you. But after today, please make sure you go on Twitter, go and look for Olu of Canada. You can't miss it. His page has literally everything that you're going to need. Okay. And yes, Olu, I'm very, your passion for seeing newcomers succeed, your passion for seeing international students succeed in Canada is very tangible. And on behalf of everybody here, we're grateful. Thank you for all that you're doing for international students and what you're sharing. Okay. So let's talk about that. Right now, it seems like this is a very great time to talk about this, especially since the application window to apply to international schools from whatever country at this time is open almost everywhere. So it could not have been more perfect to have this conversation right now. So for somebody who's a prospective international student, say you are in Nigeria, Ghana, whatever country it is this person is in, and they are in the intention is to apply to a university in Canada for like a master's degree, where can that person start from? Like what's typically like the first step if you want to study in Canada as an international student?
Very good question. I mean, like you said, now is the right time to start with your applications and all that. There are 3 academic terms in Canada. There's a winter term in January, the spring and summer in May, and the fall term in September. The fall term in September happens to be the popular admission term for a lot of international students and all that. Also, a lot of universities in Canada accept applications in advance. The reason why that is so is because of the turnaround time to submit admission application, to get decisions, to start the visa applications, which for people in places like Nigeria, there is no processing office, there's no embassy where you go to go and submit application and all that. Applications are largely submitted online. There's a VFS where you go to do your biometric capture and all that, and then your application is transmitted to a visa office either in Kenya or Ghana or London or wherever you. So now is the right time. And given the fact that the turnaround time takes a lot of time, it's always good to plan ahead. So I tell people there are 3 P's you need to keep in mind when you're thinking of coming to Canada to study as a permanent resident and all that. Number 1 is that you have to plan. You have to plan ahead, which is probably the first thing you want to get started with. Plan ahead, know when the admissions would open, when to submit applications, the things you need, the documents, getting transcripts. Even in places like Nigeria is a lot of work in some institutions, so you want to plan ahead. Number 2 is following the due process, which is part of the things we would be discussing today to provide information on the process and all that. And the 3P is to be patient. I tell people you have to be patient. A couple of days ago, we found out that there are about 1.8 million applications that are waiting to be decided, backlog for the IRCC. Things do not used to be like this, but COVID came and scattered everything left, right, up and down. So you have to, be patient. Having said that, if you're coming to Canada to study, the 6 things, there are 6 questions I believe you need to answer before you even start the application yourself. Number 1 question is, what do you want to study and at what level? In Canada, we have about 100 universities. We have several colleges and, polytechnics and all that. Not all the colleges would offer the kind of program you are interested in. Not all the universities would also have resumption times in the times you are interested in. The first thing that helps you to narrow down your search is to decide this is the program I want to do and the level I want to study. So say, for instance, you already have a bachelor's degree. Advisably, you're probably looking at a master's degree to show academic progression, or if it looks like you may not be eligible for a master's degree, you're looking at maybe probably a graduate level. If you have an O level, you're looking at maybe an undergraduate degree or a diploma, maybe like 2-year diploma and all that. But essentially, that's the first thing you want, the first question you want to answer yourself. What do I want to study and at what level? When you have that narrowed down, you move to the second question, which is which university offers the program? Like I said earlier on, not all universities would have the program you're interested in, but you can do a search and look for the places or the universities where your program is being offered. There are lots of resources to help you with that. Google is the first one. If you want to do a master's degree in economics, in Canada, and you just type that as the keywords into a Google search, it will give you a list of universities offering masters in economics in Canada. In addition to that, there are also other databases. One that I found very, very useful is the University Study Database. That is a database of all universities in Canada. The website is www.universitystudy.ca. So just university and study.ca. You would see a database of how to search for programs across all the institutions in Canada. Now you've answered that, you know where your program is being offered in Canada. The next question you want to answer is, what are the specific admission requirements in the school I'm applying to or the program I'm applying to? A master's degree in economics in Canada, let's say it's offered in maybe 10 universities, they may have specific admission requirements. Some may say you have to look for a supervisor first before you can even apply at all. Some may say you don't need to look for, some may ask you for additional documents like maybe GRE and all that. But you want to narrow that down. Once you have a list of the schools that you want to, that are offering your program, you want to know their specific admission requirements. The number 4 question you need to answer is, am I eligible? Very, very important. When you know the admission requirements, you now narrow down your option to know, do you meet the eligibility criteria for the program you're applying to or the university you're applying to? We'll get into the documents you need and the minimum grade requirement later on, but keep in mind that before you even start applying, application fees are needed. You just don't want to put money in something that it's glaring enough that you do not have what they need for you to get into the program. The number 5 question I think you need to answer is now the issue of funding. What are the available funding options for me as an international student? Even though you are not required to maybe pay your tuition as at the time you are applying for school, but it's also good to, like I said, plan ahead and start looking at your options. For a lot of people, the funding consideration would also determine or help you to make the decision of the schools you'll be applying to. What are the funding options? Do you need to fund yourself? Are there scholarships available? What are the tuition? Is this something you can afford? Maybe the province as well. What are the living expenses in each of those provinces and all that, so that you can plan ahead and budget ahead. And the final question I think you need to answer would be, when and how will I apply? Keep in mind, like I said earlier, that a lot of universities in Canada accept applications in advance, but they also have their own specific admission deadlines. In a university, it may be December. In some, it may be January, it may be February. So you want to keep that in mind so that you're working towards, meeting the admission deadline, making sure all the documents you need have been made available and submitted to the admission committee before the deadline would close. So those are like the 6 questions I believe you need to answer before you even get started. It would help you to narrow down your options, to know what you need to do, and to make sure you're doing things the right way.
Okay, that's very, very vital, and I hope people are learning from this already. If you have questions, you can use the the live chat session to drop the questions you have. We do have a lot of questions that came in from the post that I put on my community tab, and we'll be getting to that in a bit. But if you have any questions while you're here on the live stream, please do well to indicate in the live chat session, and hopefully we're able to get to as many of them as we can. So Olu, back to the list that you just gave, like the number of things, that questions people need to answer. So let's talk about the actual application process. I worked in the University of Saskatchewan briefly, doing like preliminary, oh my goodness, doing preliminary screening for applications that came into one of the graduate schools, right? So I know that the competition is tough. Like Canada, if you do top 5 countries of choice where people want to go and study, Canada will make the list. So it means that the school, as you are asking and answering these questions as an international student, they are thousands or millions of other people in other countries who are asking the same questions and are hoping to get into the same schools and maybe the same program. So how do I make my application stand out? I am this international student who's from an African country where the processes are already, it takes a little longer for me as an international, say like a student from Nigeria, it will take you longer, like visa application processes. Everything is not as clear cut as it is from somebody who's applying from, say, the US, right? So, how me, the Nigerian student who's applying, how can I make my application stand out? What do I do with my documents, with my statement of purpose? How do I stand out?
Very, very important question. The good thing, however, is that even though the competition is fierce and is, a lot of people want to come to Canada right now, it's still a free and very transparent process. Every candidate is evaluated on the basis of the things they are able to put forward and showcase, and how they are able to highlight their strengths. And that's why the quality of the documents you're submitting are very, very important. I'm just going to touch base quickly on the documents you even need if you want to come to study in Canada. I'll talk about the undergraduate level and then the graduate level. At the undergraduate level, you basically need your O-level results. A lot of the schools in Canada would say maybe you need maybe a C5 or a C6 in mathematics and English, or a C4 or whatever. These are things you would know once you check the specific admission requirements in the school and the program you're applying to. And these are things that would help you have a sense of what your chances would be. Sure. But for undergraduate level, you basically just need your O-level result, as good as possible as the key subjects you need in the O-level, mathematics, English, maybe 3 other related subjects are things that would increase your chances. Undergraduate level is a bit straightforward. We have more undergraduate students in universities and colleges than graduate students. Graduate level is where it gets tougher a bit. Graduate level, by graduate level, I mean masters and PhDs to begin with. A lot of the universities in Canada have minimum grade requirements or expectations that they expect people that are coming into masters and PhDs to have. If you go to all the universities, at least they would expect you to have at least 70%. On a scale of 5.0, that's like having 3.5 on a scale of 5.0. But in some cases, some of them make waivers for people who maybe have professional work experience, or they also lay emphasis on the last 2 years of study. So say, for instance, you graduated with a 2.2, 3.4 something, and your last 2 years were like back-to-back 5.0, you did so well, it would push you forward because the last 2 years are where you're doing things that are really, really related to the degree you completed at the bachelor's level. So number one thing to, make sure you do, or that would increase your chances, would be the grade to begin with. Very, very important. If it happens that you have completed your undergraduate degree, you had a low grade, there are also other things you can do to push yourself forward. I personally tell people having a low grade is not a death sentence. We've seen people who had low grades and are still able to get into graduate school. However, the honest truth is that it gives you extra layer of work to do, because you're competing against other people who probably have better grades than you. So what are the other things that you can do to push forward a strong application? It will be something like building your research portfolio, having publications, having research experience, working on, securing a supervisor in your area of study if you're coming for a research-based program, building professional experience so that you have other things to leverage in your resume. Those are examples of things you can do. If you're applying to a program that requires you to do standardized tests like Gmat and Gre, you want to make sure you put the best foot forward for those ones so that you have higher scores that will distinguish you and make up for the low grade you have. In addition to that, there are also some universities that if you are able to show that you have previous publications, or even if it's not publications, but you have other skills like communication skills, you've presented at conferences and all that, that you can leverage on. These are things you want to highlight in all the documents you're pushing forward, your statement of intent, your resume, and all that. But this is just basically about the grade, the low grade, and things you can do to push a strong application forward. The second document you would need when you're applying for master's and PhD would be the letter of intent. Some call it the statement of purpose, letter of motivation, statement of motivation, and all that. This is an opportunity for you to sell yourself before the admission committee. You want to make sure you are not doing a copy and paste letter of intent. You know, something that is so generic, something that is not highlighting your skills, your competence, your experiences, what is driving you. Now, let's be honest with each other. We know a lot of us from back home, the driving force is to japa, right? But even when you're doing that, you want to do it in a way that is highly convincing. It's highlighting your strength and all that. And that's what your letter of intent gives you the opportunity to do. On my page, on my website, www.olufemiloye.ca, on my Twitter page, on my Instagram page, I have lots of resources explaining how to write a convincing letter of intent, statement of purpose, letter of motivation, and all that. The key things you want to highlight in your letter of motivation or letter of intent are why you are applying for the particular program, why you are applying for the particular university, what are the skills and competencies you have that would make you succeed in the program, how would you contribute to the experience of other students in the program, and number 5, what do you intend to do with the program at the completion? You know, how is this program going to support you and help you reach your, let's say, 5 to 10 year goal after the completion of the program? The letter of statement could be a page, it could be 2 pages, depending on what the requirement is specifically stated in the school you're applying to. You know, you want to make sure you're writing that, you're selling yourself, you're highlighting your skills and competence, you are talking about the things you're bringing on board to enrich the experiences of other people in the program. The third thing, documents that is very, very important is your resume. So when you're applying for graduate school in Canada, you don't want to submit a resume that has your date of birth, your local government, you know, all those other things,
and gender,
marital
and like
status
that.
and gender. Nobody
We
cares
don't
about
want to
that
know,
here.
sir.
They don't want to know. And there are sample resumes and CVs that you can use to tailor your own resume to what the application or admission committee is looking at. A lot of universities in Canada have what we call the Career Advancement Center. Any school you're applying to, if you just say sample resume from University of Calgary, sample resume from University of Saskatchewan, if you do a Google search, you would see samples of their resumes on their website. They are there for you to use, and use that to tailor, follow the structure, know how to categorize each section in your resume, your education, your professional experience, your other experience, the publications, the everything you have, you will see what they need there. If you again go on my website, I have a post on resume templates from 10 Canadian universities that you would see. The templates are there for you to, you know, guide yourself and make sure you're doing things the right way. The fourth document you need would be your letter of recommendation. If you're applying for a master's degree or a PhD, a lot of the universities would expect you to provide information of 2 or 3 referees, people that have taught you in the past or that you've worked with. So not your father, not your mother, not your sibling, but people that, not, you know,
except he was an employer.
Exactly. But people that can speak to the fact that, oh, I know Marina, you know, I taught Marina when she was, you know, a student at so university. I can attest to her ability to do this and to do that. Not people that are saying, oh, he's a good boy, he's a good girl. No,
Exactly.
no,
I've seen that so many times.
those are not the things they are looking for.
He's very
Because they are
respectful.
looking,
Nobody
exactly.
cares about
No, they are looking at the skills. For instance, you know, I know Marina has the ability to gather data from geographically dispersed individuals. When we collaborated on so research, these are the unique perspective, you know, she was able to bring into the research. She has ability to, you know, do maybe quantitative methodology and all that. The things that would really highlight your competence and further add to your portfolio for graduate studies. So that's very, very important. I tell people that, you know, even if you have to start sending Happy New Month messages to your previous professor so that you can put yourself in their mind, and it's not when you just need their help, you are approaching them, you know, they are more than willing. Some of them may ask you to even provide, you know, your resume or your statement of intent so that they can be more familiar with you and about your portfolio and all that. Make sure you're doing that. It's not going to cost you anything. The other requirements that a lot of people ask us is, do I need to write IELTS to come to study in Canada? The answer to that is no and yes. So a lot of universities in Canada, they do something for people whose previous language of education and training was English language. And that is something a lot of people from Nigeria, from Ghana, from places where the language of instruction and training is English language would benefit from. So you will get a waiver on the basis of that. There's also a website you can go to confirm the language of instruction and training for your program, and that's wed.net, www.whed.net. And that's the World Higher Education Database, where a lot of universities go to like confirm the language of instruction. On the basis of that alone, you get a waiver for IELTS. I didn't have to do IELTS to come to study in Canada. For those applying from Nigeria, there's a new visa pathway, the Nigerian Student Express. That's for visa application, and it's also not mandatory. But if you decide to use the NSE for your visa application, then you would be required to do IELTS at that point. But if you're not using that, it's also not mandatory. So that's that. The other one that is related to the IELTS will be standardized tests like Gmat and Gre. Whether you have to do Gmat and Gre would depend on the program you're applying to. And that's mostly common for professional programs, business-related programs, MBAs, economics, finance, and all that. So if you're not doing any of that, you're just coming for a normal program, you would not be required to do that. And the last and final document will be your proposed research. Also, this would depend on the type of program you're coming for. If it's a PhD, compulsorily, you must have a proposed research. If it's a master's degree, if it's not a thesis or research-based program, you would also not need that. So if you're coming for a research-based program, depending on the requirement of the school you're applying to, they will tell you, you know, we need you to write a sample of a proposed research. Now, I have a couple of information for you that could be of help to you to further position yourself in this regard. Number one is that all universities in Canada have what we call the signature areas of research. Those are the areas they focus on mainly, you know, for their own faculty members, their areas of research. They do research in other areas, but those are like the key areas where they have a lot of money and all that. Part of the things you can do would be to look at those signature areas of research. And if you do a Google search, you'll find it again. University of Saskatchewan signature areas of research. At the U of S, we have indigenous people and culture. We have, I think, agriculture and all that.
Yeah.
You know, it's about 5 or 6. You know, you can always see that. If you have research ability, experience, and interest in those areas, write something related to those areas to better position yourself. In addition to that, if you're applying to a program after checking the requirement and they've stated that you must find a faculty member to supervise you before you apply, that would be the first thing to get started with. Do a proposal research, start reaching out to faculty members. How do you do this? Again, if you go to the program website of the program you're applying to, you will see a list of the faculty members in those departments, their areas of research, their contact information, which is mainly by email. When you're doing this, again, you want to be strategic. Their emails are public. They are getting emails from hundreds and hundreds of people from across the world. What would make your own application on a daily basis?
Yeah.
You know, so what do you need to do to make your own application stand out? A couple of things you can do would be how to sell yourself to them. You know, write a short email. Don't make it too long. They probably have just a minute to glance through and pick on things that are of interest to them in your email. But as you're sending them the email, you're introducing yourself, You are telling them why you want to work with them. You're telling them how you've gotten yourself familiar with the research they've done. Maybe there's a recent publication you want to highlight. You are mentioning your own skills that are or experience and competencies that are related to that, and how that would make you succeed under their supervision. In addition to that, you can now add other documents like your transcript, highlighting your grade. If they open your transcript and see, oh, this person has a first class or a 4 point something, it piques their interest again. And then additionally, if you can add your resume, you can also add that for more information and the proposed research. If you're reaching out to any faculty member, make sure you are writing a proposed research in an area that is related to their area of interest.
True, so true.
And you would find this on the department website, on the program website of the particular program you're applying to. You'll see this, you'll see their latest work. Even in the proposed research you're doing, make sure maybe 1 or 2 ways cite, one of their work and say, this is the work that I have read, and I think these are other things we can do together and all that. The one thing to add to that also is that it's a game of numbers. You're looking for a supervisor. You just don't want to reach out to one person and say, because this person has not responded to me or have not had back or turned me down, then I'm not going to reach out to anyone again. Spread your applications around. Look for faculty members across universities in Canada. Start ahead and start reaching out to them, not when the application would open, because it may take a lot of time, a lot of back and forth. Some of them may say they want to set up interviews with you to further, get to know about you and all that. So you want to get started with that. In summary, those are the documents you need and how to improve on those documents and strategically position yourself to increase chances of getting into a program in Canada. I think the other part I can just touch on, having talked about the undergraduate and graduate level for masters and PhDs, would be other categories of graduate programs, maybe for people who are not able to get into master's degree and PhDs, we just want to come and do a college program in Canada. The one thing to take note is that there are different levels of education in colleges too. There are diplomas, there are graduate diplomas, there are postgraduate diplomas, there are graduate certificates. If you already have a bachelor's degree, make sure you are focusing on doing a graduate certificate program or a postgraduate diploma. Why is this important? Because it will show academic progression. An ordinary diploma is just for somebody that has a low level. If you already have an ND or HND or a bachelor's degree, you can use those ones to apply for postgraduate diplomas or graduate certificate. And when you're applying for these ones, what you need would not be as much as what you need for a master's degree. You basically just need your transcript, your certificate, and in some instances, your resume. You don't even need a statement of intent for college programs, for graduate certificate. And I tell a lot of people, even these college programs are very beneficial. They teach you hands-on skills. They are much more practical. They have co-op components. The only thing is that they are not really funded. They may give you a few $1,000s in scholarships and all that, but what gives you funding mainly would be the research-based program, master's degrees, PhD programs. But these graduate colleges, graduate certificates in colleges are also very, very beneficial. It gives you the same benefits. If you do a 1-year college program, it gives you a 1-year work permit. You can work part-time when you're studying. If you do a 2-year, you get a 3-year work permit. So that's just the additional thing to add.
Wow, so much information. Thank you very much, Olu. If you're just joining us, I am chatting with Olufemiloye, Olu of Canada, just to talk about applying to Canadian schools. How do you get your applications to stand out? Like how can you go through the process just to increase your chances of getting into your desired program of choice, desired school of choice? Just a few things I wanted to reiterate on for some of the things you talked about the document. You did mention something about letters of recommendation. So I've seen it both ways. Some schools ask you to actually provide actual letters of recommendations, but there are other schools that ask you to provide just the contact information of the reference. I know the University of Saskatchewan does that because that's where I worked, and so I'm a bit familiar with like the graduate processes with the University of Saskatchewan. They ask you to provide a contact because the university has their own template that they send out to references. So just to provide a bit of a guide of how they want the references to respond. So it can be both ways. They can ask you to provide the actual letters, or the contact information will suffice because they want to send out their own templates. And then just to add to what you said about the statement of purpose, I saw this happen too many times where people go online, find a statement of purpose, copy, paste, and change some things just to say, I want to take this program because I want to improve my country. Well, the question is how? Because part of my job was doing like that preliminary screening, like which statements of purpose stand out. Those are the things that I put forth. Like when I'm now proposing applications to like the graduate committees, I had the authority to indicate notes to say, this is what I noticed, or this is what happened. Any information that helps the graduate committee to arrive at an informed decision, it was all hands, right? And now that's one thing I want international students to take note of. When you're trying to contact like graduate schools, you want information before you actually apply, just know that the assessment of your application starts when you click send on that first email. When you start that initial correspondence to say, hey, I'm a student from this country, I'm looking to apply for this, and I have this questions, that's actually where your application assessment starts from. People make the mistake of thinking, oh, it's just a receptionist that's on the other side. It's not just an administrator. That's not the professor. So you can get away with just talking anyhow. Or you send an email at 10 o'clock and at 10:05, you're sending follow-up. How dare you not respond to the first one? Look, let me just tell you, those things, it might not be the deciding factor. It can be the deciding factor. I saw it happen, right? Where the committee was split. It was a 50-50 split. It was the questions around what was this person's communication like? That the decision on where the admission decision went, that's what it was hinged on. So you need to be careful when you're sending those emails, when you're sending that correspondence. Treat it like you're talking to a professor the entire time. Because even though, yes, the person on the other end is a graduate administrator, they have an input. I was part of the graduate admissions committee in the school that I supported. I sat in on those meetings. I made recommendations where it was necessary, not as a professor, but from the other point of view. Because you can have an amazing GPA, have a strong application, but if your communication is poor, you are going to have a problem because you're not going to be talking with books in your class. You're dealing with people.
Right.
You're going to be working in groups. You're going to have to mix and relate to people from other countries, from other cultures. If you're not able to show respect, if you're not able to value diverse perspectives, it is going to be a problem when you get into the course. So you have to look at it all round. While you're putting all of this together, just know that you're getting assessed on everything. And communication, value for diversity, inclusion, it is a big deal here. So that's something that you'll want to pay attention to. Don't copy and paste SOP because we can see through it. That's the truth.
Right.
We can.
And plagiarism
I was not a professor, and I could
Right.
immediately just look at it and like, yo, girl, I've seen this thing before. It just has a different name. We know when you have copied, when it's copy and paste, we know. So like Olu said, you want to make it personalized. You want to let it reflect you as a person. Why is this course important to me? What is this course going to benefit? How does this relate to my long-term career goals? At what point in my career goal am I at? What does this program do for me? What is the transition from here? That's what you want to be selling to professors, because that one, what are the chances that two people have the exact same career goals, right? Very unlikely. Right. That's why you want it to be personal, so that they know that, okay, this is no information I can find anywhere else. This is this person. And it illuminates your application. It may not be the reason why they take you, but you will just call extra attention to yourself. And you want the professors to pay that extra attention so that they see what they would have missed if it was just a 6-second glance, which is the time it takes sometimes.
Right.
And in addition, go ahead, Olu.
Yeah. In addition to that, it also helps you to communicate your writing skills. And writing is a big skill you need in graduate school in Canada. You're contracting someone to write your statement of intent for you and all. Okay, so when you get into the program, who is going to do the writing
for you? Exactly.
Or do the research for you.
True.
And in addition to that, plagiarism is also it's something that can kick you out of the school and kick you out of Canada. You're copying and pasting from somewhere. you're passing somebody else's work as your
As
own.
your own.
Academic integrity is very, very important.
True. Yeah.
Also, in addition to that, teamwork skill is very, very important. You'll be working on a lot of group work, group projects. Your interaction with other people are things they take note of.
True.
The graduate secretary you're looking at, they hold so much power.
I'm telling you.
They have so much
I'm
information
telling you. And we
on
all
so
talk,
many
just so
things.
you know.
And,
They all talk. You
and
cannot.
they have, so you don't want to underrate. In fact, you want to make them your best friend. My
True.
graduate secretary is one of my best friends in graduate school. She has a lot of information. Even when you get into the system, there are hidden scholarships here and there that you probably do not know of. That they will probably just send you emails to you and say, you can apply for this. 2,000 here, 3,000 here, extra money.
True.
They have a professor that is looking for a teaching assistant or a research assistant. They can say, I know the student that will be able to do the job, extra money.
Absolutely.
And in all honesty, it's not all about what you stand to gain from them. It's just the fact that learn how to be cordial with people.
True.
Relationship really matters.
True.
In a country like Canada, it is in some ways also who do you know. Networking is very, very important. Things may be happening around you that you do not know of, that you just don't know about it, except you connect with the right people, the right resources, the right individuals at the right time. So that's why that is also very, very important.
Absolutely. And one other thing that stands out when people submit statements of purpose that have been copied is in the email, in the body of the email, when they write, and you see that, okay, there's poor communication, there's poor grammar, there's use of shorthand, and then you have this statement of purpose that is just so proper, you have big grammar. There's such a conflict. Like when you send emails, your communication is poor compared to statement of purpose. So the difference is like night and day, and immediately people are able to know that, okay, one of them is not a reflection of the students, and more than half the time is the SOP. I was like a graduate support for not a long time, but in the short time that I did, I saw all of these things play out. And it was so funny. Graduate administrators have so much information. When you send the emails, look, there's extra. Just be proper. That's basically what we're trying to say here. Thank you very much for everyone who's joining us. Hi, Irene. Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. Irene was my colleague at the University of Saskatchewan in one of the graduate schools that I supported. So, Olu, let's talk about supervisors. That was one of the major things you talked about. For the people who have interest in research-based programs, one big part is being able to secure supervisors. You have talked about how to contact them, how to keep the email short and things like that. But is there anything else that I need to know? Like, first of all, I know that a number of professors manage their own correspondence. So response time can be a problem, right? As a student, what can I do? Like, what is the ideal time to follow up with a supervisor? Like, if I've sent an email and I haven't gotten a response, what else can I do as follow-up while I'm waiting for a supervisor to respond? Like, what are the likely possible reasons why supervisors either don't respond or they reply and say no? Like, how can I make myself more visible beyond just the correspondence that stand out? Is there anything else people can do or things they need to know with supervisors?
Right. In addition to that, I think how and where you're reaching out to faculty members also matter. One of the places that people underrate a lot is LinkedIn. A lot of the faculty members are also on LinkedIn. In addition to that, they get lots of emails and all that. LinkedIn is also one place where you can connect with people professionally. If you know how to use LinkedIn, in fact, it may be people connecting to you professionally.
True.
Make sure you're putting yourself out there in professional platforms on LinkedIn. If you're doing something related to a research area that you're looking for a faculty member to supervise you, make sure you are updating your timeline on what are the things you're doing. This is also an additional information you can include in your portfolio when you're reaching out to faculty members, either by email, highlighting the things you're doing. In addition to that is also that you can also use LinkedIn to connect with current or previous graduate students in a particular program in an institution you're applying to. You're looking for a supervisor in, let's say, mechanical engineering at the University of Saskatchewan. Faculty members may be busy. Graduate students are also busy, but maybe not as much as faculty members. But at least on a student-to-student level, you can also reach out to them and ask for information, because they may have access to more information than you have access to from someone applying from outside the country. Maybe there's a faculty member that just got a research grant. Maybe there's a lab that there's an opening and all that. Those are people you can connect to get additional information on things you can do or how you can make your application stand out, or if they can make recommendations to you. Okay. The final thing would be patience. I know it takes a lot of work, but you want to be patient. Like I said, spread your applications around. Don't put your eggs in one basket, and be patient. So my own general rule is that if you reach out to somebody, a faculty member, and in 2 to 3 weeks you do not hear back from them, you can send a follow-up email. And after that follow-up email, if you do not hear back from them, just move on to contacting other people. Yeah. They probably, and it's for a lot of reasons. They get a lot of emails, they probably have a lot of students already, they probably do not have research grants, or they are not recruiting new students. One thing I find out is that a lot of professors in Canada are very polite about this. Instead of turning you down and saying no, they'll probably just not respond. So sometimes it's not about you. It could be for a couple of reasons or a couple of factors. But if you're in a program that requires you to get somebody to supervise you before you apply, then you want to get started with that. You want to put your best into your communication. You want to explore other means. If there's a conference that is coming up in that area that you can sign up for. And in the days of COVID now, a lot of conferences are online.
Virtual, yeah.
They are virtual and all that. That's an opportunity for you to connect with, faculty members and all that outside of the regular emails and other channels that are available to you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so speaking about this part now, let's talk about the people who are trying to switch careers. So for instance, you have a previous education in one area, you're considering a master's in a completely different area, or for the people who have gaps, for the people who have your bachelor's degree, you graduated from university 20 years ago, now you want to do a master's, or you have a previous master's, there has been a gap. And we know the way it can be in Nigeria, where your area of training might be different from your area of experience. For people like that, what are the chances for them? Like, what can they do to sell that? How do you show career progression like that?
Right. The best way to do that is to leverage your professional experience. We've had instances where people had bachelor's degree in one program, they moved to another area, and that's the area they've been working on, and they now need to get educational training in those areas. If you're a working professional, the best thing to leverage would now be your professional experience, very well highlighted in your resume that you're using to apply for a program. In a lot of universities, and I know the places where a long gap year is usually a concern, would be when you're applying for college programs. If you're applying for master's degrees and PhD in universities, they strongly do not would not say because you've graduated 10 years ago, you cannot apply and all that. But even if they say that, one of the things you can show is what have you been doing within that period since you've completed your last program, and how would that support you to succeed as a graduate student? The way I like to put it for people is to look at where you're coming from, look at where you are right now, where you hope to be in the future, and how are you going to be able to merge those two previous paths together to give you a better chance of getting to where you want to be in the future. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say, for instance, you have a bachelor's degree in maybe microbiology, and you end up working as a human resource professional and all that.
It's my profile you just put there, so it's me.
Yeah. I did not even know that.
Wow, that coincidence is a lot.
And now you want to do a master's degree in human resource management. One of the things you want to make sure you're putting forward is, what are the things you've done in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years that you've been working in that field? Very, very key. You will be leveraging on your resume, your professional experience, to highlight the skills, the practical experiences you've gathered in that area that you now want to take into graduate school to get an educational training in that area. So those are the things to leverage on. And that's very, very important because, and that's why your resume, your CV is also one of the key components of your graduate school application. The other part where it's also very, very important to fine-tune this is when you're applying for the visa application. The way I like to put it to people is that getting an admission is like playing a football match. You've played the first half. You've not finished the match until you get your visa, and to ensure that your effort is not wasted and all that. When you're applying for your study permit, there are 3 key things the visa officers would pay particular attention to. Number 1 is the purpose of coming to Canada. What is the program you're coming for? Why the program? Why is the program important and all that? Very, very important. That's where you see when they reject some people, they say, I'm not satisfied that you're a bona fide student based on the purpose of coming to Canada. You did a bachelor's degree in, let's say, food science and technology. You ended up in a bank. You're working as a banker right now. Food science, a banker, and you're not saying tomorrow, I want to come and do nothing. You know, what are you leveraging on to come and do nothing? Oh, just because nothing, everybody is doing nothing. No, you want to be able to clarify sufficiently the genuineness of the purpose of coming for the program you are coming for. The best thing to do, even when you are transitioning and changing career, would be to leverage on your professional experience if your previous education was not in the line of the job you're currently doing. It is still highly advisable for you to either apply for something that is related to your previous academic background or to your current professional experience. You know, that helps you to tailor your study plan, the genuineness of your purpose to things you've already done before. As a matter of fact, I mainly advise people to tailor it to their professional experience if that is different from their academic training, because it shows progression. When I did my bachelor's degree in food science and technology, I ended up in the bank as a finance person. This is what I've been doing. And because of that, I now want to get academic training in that area so that I can better position myself for higher opportunities in this area, which, because I do not have academic training in it, it has been limiting me in my career.
Exactly.
If I read that as a visa officer, it sounds genuine and convincing to me than food science to banking and finance to now saying I want to go into nursing, you know.
Exactly.
So, and that's why it's very, very important. And that's why when you're applying for your visa, your study plan, your letter of explanation is key in providing additional information that the visa officers may be curious to know and clarifying other intricacies in your application. So keep that in mind when you're thinking of transitioning, of changing career, of taking another program that is not related to your previous background or your professional experience.
Okay. I got quite a number of questions in that area, and I'm hoping that the people who sent in those questions, you have your answer. So Olu, let's talk about one other thing, one major part, and this is scholarship. And when it comes to funding for international students, so most schools, there was a question that came in earlier saying, are there schools that don't require you to pay a deposit? If you are given, yes. Do you want to talk about that quickly before I go into like the main scholarship?
Yes,
don't require you
quickly.
to pay a deposit when you're given admission.
Yes, quickly, what you need to know about deposits is that it will depend on the school you're applying to. If it's colleges, where it is common for you to be mandatorily expected to pay a deposit are mostly colleges. In universities, it may help you to further prove to the visa officer that you've made some commitment to the schools. You know, especially at the graduate level, master's and PhD, it is not mandatory. But if you feel it's something that would help you to further strengthen your visa application to show that you've made commitment, it will be advisable. It will depend on the school. It would also depend on the level of study. A lot of the colleges would require you to pay some deposit, maybe first-time tuition, maybe certain amount of money to, you know, be added to the first-time tuition or first-year tuition and all that. But largely it will depend on the level of program and the institution. And these are things you want to double check before you apply to a particular school. Know what their deposits would be, know the due time for you to pay those deposits so that you can secure your space in the program.
Exactly. And to add to that, there are also schools who that's what they do. They require the deposit to secure your spot in the program.
Mhm.
So because if they're saying yes to you, it means they're saying no to other people. If they secure admit 25 people have admission, which means they have turned down a lot of other people, and then out of the 25, 15 people get their visas rejected, or 20 of them come back and say, I changed my mind, another school offered me admission. It's like a loss for the school, right? So
Mhm.
most times when they say pay this certain amount, is to secure your spot in the program. But like Olu said, you want to confirm what the refund policies are. If my
Right.
visa is not granted, are you going to give me the money back? Ask all those questions. But again, like he said, totally depends on the school. So to go back to the scholarship question, Olu, one for international tuition is not cheap. Like we both know that, as in from your experience, you know, international students end up paying maybe like times three of what domestic students pay, sometimes even more, depending on the course. So, what are the funding options? How can international students secure scholarships? Because it just seems like these scholarships are so few and there's so many people competing for them, or there are not a lot of options open to international students, depending on the program that you're in. How do I position myself so that I'm able to access as many scholarships as I can possibly get?
Okay, so three things here. The first thing is to note that a lot of schools in Canada, they do something that makes it easier for you to even get scholarship, and which is the fact that you, in most cases, you don't have to apply separately. And that's why the quality of the documents you're submitting for your admission is very, very important, because that's you using two stones to kill one bird. You know, a lot of the institutions have scholarship for you based on what you're bringing on board, especially if it's a research-based program. That's one thing to take note of. In many instances, you don't have to write a separate application. You don't have to write a separate exam to get a scholarship in Canada. And that will lead me to number two thing, which are the categories of scholarships that are available in Canada. There are about 4 or 5 categories. Number one is need-based scholarships. So need-based scholarships are mainly for students, underrepresented students, excluded groups, marginalized groups, vulnerable community members, people from low income and all that. Depending on the university you are applying to, these are the ones they may probably ask you to write an essay to talk about the reason why you may be considered for the scholarship and all that. So keep that in mind. There are need-based scholarships for international students in Canada. A lot of these scholarships that are need-based are also often available only after you've gotten your admission. You know, that's one thing to keep in mind. The second one, which is about the most popular type of scholarship in Canada, is the internal scholarships. We call them the merit-based and the entrance scholarships. Like I mentioned, in a lot of universities in Canada, you are considered for financial support based on your academic profile, the documents you're submitting for your admission. If you want to position yourself for a lot of these internal merit-based entrance scholarships, you want to focus on some certain universities in Canada. We call them the U15 universities. And I personally call them Canada's heavy pocket universities, where you get a lot of money, they have a lot of scholarships, they get about 70 or 75% of the government funding and all that. If you go on my website to find information on this, they also have their own website. The website is www.u15.ca, and that's U15, the letter U and 15, number 1 and 5.ca. You see a list of those universities that are referred to as Canada's U15 universities. You see the funding they have available and all that. In these schools, it is mainly the program you are applying to, mainly to position and strategically position yourself for funding. You're applying for a research-based program. They will evaluate you on the basis of the research you're coming to do and offer you financial support, maybe full scholarship. I got the International Business Scholarship at the University of Saskatchewan, and it covered tuition and living expenses and everything directly from Nigeria. So
Wow.
it's available. One of the criteria for the Dean Scholarship at the University of Saskatchewan is that you are applying for graduate school for the very first time at the U of S. You are coming for a research-based program. You have at least 85% average in your CGPA, and you're able to demonstrate that you have research potential or potential for further research in graduate school. How can you demonstrate this? Previous publications, attendance of academic conferences, presentations at academic conferences are some of the things you have to do. And that's why, again, the quality of your documents are important. I never knew I would be shortlisted for that. I just applied for the admission normally. And after applying, getting the admission around middle of March, I got a follow-up email that I have been nominated for the Dean Scholarship, and they asked me to provide additional information on my research experience, my publications, and all that. I sent that in, and after like a week or two, I was offered the funding. So I did not have to apply, which is the case in most institutions. The best place to check for available internal scholarships or merit-based scholarship will be the finance section of the school you are applying to. All universities in Canada have their finance section. You can find more information on the scholarships they have, the criteria, the requirements, how to show your interest or how to apply specifically for it. The third category of financial provision you can get is the research-based scholarships from your supervisors. A lot of faculty members get research grants from the university, from the government, from external organizations to do certain research. And that's why when you're reaching out to a faculty member, you want to let them know that you have flexibility of research. If you're applying for a research area and you're proposing something, leverage the signature area of research in the university, leverage the areas of interest of the faculty members, let them know that if they have an ongoing research that you can be a part of, that they are recruiting students for, you are willing to also, you have that flexibility, so that if they have a grant for something already, they can use that to support you and to fund you. And that's the third, option. The fourth one is the sport or athletic scholarships for students who are going to be a part of the sports or athletic organizations in the university. And you don't have to do something on maybe physical education or something related to sports to do this. These are also mainly available for students that are already enrolled in the program. Maybe you joined like maybe the university football team or the volleyball team or the hockey team. They offer financial scholarships to students who are extraordinary in sports and in other related athletic activities as well. Mm-hmm. The final category of scholarship is the external scholarships. So there are external organizations that you can apply to fund your program in Canada. There are research organizations. There is the Social Science and Humanities Research Council. There is the Tri-Council scholarship organization in Canada for engineering, for health and social sciences that you can independently apply to, or ask your university, your graduate coordinator to nominate you for such scholarships that are offered by external organizations. Their funding comes from the government, it comes from donor agencies and all that. And there are separate, different websites where you can look for information on these external scholarships. Some of them, even for people from countries like Nigeria, are like the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship, the Commonwealth Scholarship and all that. You can always look that up and look at, the opportunities they have. Some of them may require you to already have an admission offer, or tell you specifically the universities you should apply to that are part of their scholarship programs as well. And there are lots of resources, examples of websites where you can look up this information at scholarshipscanada.com. So scholarships in plural with an S, canada.com. There's also universitystudy.ca. So scholarshipscanada.com, universitystudy.ca. There's also grantme.ca. So grantme.ca. So those are examples of places you can look for. And again, just like we mentioned earlier, the graduate secretary in your institutions, they have a lot of information. You can always reach out to them and say, are there external scholarships I can key into that could help me to defray the cost of my study, and they are always very willing to share those information as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Olu. With this answer, you have answered a lot of questions because we're so many questions that came in about scholarship. There are some people who wanted to know if international students can get money from the government. Do we have options like that available at this time?
It's going to come in form of maybe a research grant. So they are
Okay.
even at the provincial level, there are research grants that are being offered by provincial government at the federal level, but it's definitely going to be tied to something which is most likely going to be research.
Research.
I
Okay.
think in addition to some of the things I have said would be other practical steps you can take to better position yourself for scholarship. One of it is one thing I've mentioned earlier would be to spread your applications around, be strategic in the schools you're applying to. Apply to schools that are in places where a lot of people don't want to go to. Not because those places are not good, but if you ask an average person, most people just want to go to maybe Ontario or British Columbia and all that. And there are lots of institutions in places like Atlantic Canada, in the prairies. I had somebody who got into a school in Acadia University in Nova Scotia and, got a lot of scholarship and all that to support his program. So spread your applications around. Consider schools that are upper, middle, and lower ranked. So I advise people to prepare their mind to apply to at least 3 universities. The upper ranked universities are the U15 universities that I mentioned earlier. There are also the middle ranked universities that are very, very good, offer a lot of funding like Memorial University, University of New Brunswick, that are not part of the U15 but are doing outstanding research as well that you can also key into. Spread your applications around. Look at provinces like Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island in Atlantic Canada. Look at the prairie provinces in Manitoba and Saskatchewan as well. Spread your applications around. That's very, very important. And like I mentioned, strategically position yourself for the priority areas of research, the signature areas of research in the schools you're applying to. Talk to the program coordinators, check the finance section of the university website, prepare quality documents, like we said, in case they want to consider you for entrance scholarships, and also reach out to graduate coordinators to ask about teaching and research assistantships. So that even if you are not getting a full funding, if they are able to give you a job. And one thing I found out is that for student jobs, university on-campus jobs will pay you more money than the labor work you want to go and do outside of the university, because they have what do we call it? They have unions. They have unions for students that have negotiated and say, I think in the University of Saskatchewan, I think averagely the minimum wage is about $11, if I remember correctly, $11
In the
something.
province, right? Yeah,
In the
it's about
province,
$11 something. Yeah.
the minimum wage is $11, but at the University of Saskatchewan, the wage for a graduate student starts from $20. That's what the union has negotiated. So it gives you more money than doing work outside school. So reach out to them, let them know you're interested in being teaching assistant or a research assistant, and if there are opportunities, they should also let you know.
Okay, great. Olu, you have answered a lot of the questions. From your answers, you have answered quite a number of the questions that came in. So I'm going to try to just scroll through now and look through a couple of questions that are specific in areas that we haven't talked about yet. So there's a lot of people are asking about, does my visa cover my family? If I get a study permit, can I come with my family? Do you want to just speak a bit about that?
Yes, I can talk about that. So when you apply for your study permit, you're applying for yourself alone. It's not a family application. However, international students in Canada are eligible to apply for their family members. You either apply for a spousal open work permit for your spouse, and then apply for either study permit or visitor's record for your children. Now, the decision on whether to apply together, or first of all, apply for your own and come to Canada and then apply for your family members, would depend on you solely. And what do I mean by this? When you're applying for visa, there are criteria you must meet, like I mentioned earlier, the purpose of coming, the finance, availability of finance. If you're coming as a single student and you're coming as a family, it's different financial expectations. If you look at how your finances are set up and it doesn't look as if you have enough money to cover for everyone, then you can split the application. And the last and final one, which is also very, very important, is the home ties. So if you're putting everybody in your application, what are the other home ties you have to show that you're genuinely just coming to study, and once you complete your study, you will truly go back home, which is the expectation when you're applying for study permit. What I found out for a lot of family members is that they find out that it's easier to probably use your partner or their children as a proof of home ties as married people. One person apply for the visa first, and then others would apply to come and join them later. But it's a decision you have to make yourself when you look at your profile. If you have other ties, maybe you have companies, you have employees, you have very strong financial settings. We've seen instances where people apply together and still got the visa, and we've seen instances where people apply separately, they got their own visa and then applied for their family members. Okay. But you are eligible to make that application.
Okay. So yes, I'm trying to scroll through the community tab just to see if there are specific questions that were missed. People are asking if as an international student, if I come in with my children, can they go to school for free? Can my spouse work? And you just spoke to that. The spouses can get the open work permit, they can work. And the children of international students, as far as you have a valid study permit, they can attend public or Catholic
school
at no cost.
And it's free. Yeah.
And it's free. Okay, somebody saying, do I need to contact a supervisor before I can get admitted? Depends on the program. If it's a course-based program where it is not stated as an admission requirement, then you don't need it. But if it is a thesis-based program, then you can refer to everything Olu has said about finding a supervisor. A lot of these questions have been answered. Let me look through the comments to see. Okay. Can one apply using incomplete transcripts? I'm receiving my full transcripts in February 2022 latest, and by then the deadline for my preferred schools would have closed for the fall academic session. So can somebody apply with incomplete transcripts?
Yes, you can, but they would only give you a conditional admission. If at all they consider the application, they will give you a conditional admission pending when you are able to supply your full transcript. Okay. But that's probably part of the things you want to note in your application, that
your statement of
still awaiting, the final results and all that. Or if you have an idea of your grades already, you can probably just mention those ones and say, you are awaiting the official confirmation from your university.
Okay. And for some people, even if you apply with full transcripts, at the point where you are submitting your application, you are the one providing your transcripts. So your acceptance is still going to be conditional on the fact that they have to get official transcripts that will be sent directly from the issuing institution. So if you apply, I provide my transcripts from University of blah, blah, blah. When your admission is complete, University of blah, blah, blah has to send your transcript directly to the school that has accepted you. So either way, the admission will be conditional until official transcripts are received. So yes. You can apply with the transcripts you have at that time. I think this question is very interesting. I'm hearing this for the first time. What about application questions like what other schools are you applying to? I was not aware schools were asking. Is it wise to list other schools one is applying to, or is it wise to keep the information undisclosed?
I mean, I've never seen an application that has asked you to list other schools you're applying to.
It's not typical.
If the person has the name of the university, please let us know. I haven't come across that in the application that states list other schools you're applying to. That's number one. But if they're asking you to list them, be truthful in your application, because a lot of these people connect with each other. Sure. So that's one thing I will tell you, be truthful in your application. Let them know. It's just like another question they ask you on, I can't remember, I think it's on scholarship, whether you need a scholarship and all that. But one thing I would advise you is that be truthful in your application, because they may have a way of finding out. But personally, I haven't seen that question asking you to list other places you are applying to.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. If there's a specific situation going on here and you want to give us a little more context, that would be nice. But it's not typical. because schools know that students apply to multiple schools. So it's not realistic to now base it on which other schools you apply to. So yeah. But like Olu said, if they ask, you're better off.
I just saw a very good question here that I think I can touch on. And it's saying, are the chances of getting admission higher when you already have a professor? Do I have to mention in my SOP that I already have a professor ready to work with me? 100% yes. I recommend, if you've done the work of finding a professor, and you have that already, please make sure you mention it in your statement of purpose. The chances get better when you have an academic faculty member that has accepted you and can even put in more words for you. So it's something you should definitely highlight in your application as well.
Okay. And this one is about, I think this is relating to funding when it comes to visa applications. Is it
Right.
okay to use your dad's boss as your co-sponsor?
So that's going to be a third-party sponsor. You can use anybody as your sponsor, but you have work to do to convince the visa officer on why that person is making a commitment to sponsor you. Are there instances where they've showed or they've supported you in the past? You want to provide those evidence. Have they made commitment? So if you're using a third-party sponsor that is not your parent or direct sibling and all that, part of the things you can do would be, if they are genuinely your sponsor, they should be able to make commitment. Maybe ask them to pay certain amount of money to the school and provide evidence of that so that you can show that, yes, this person is genuinely sponsoring me. But the things you want to work on in your explanation would be, why is this person sponsoring you? We know international education is expensive. Why are they making that commitment? Are there evidence of being financially supported by this person in the past? And what are the commitments they have made towards your study in Canada?
Okay. And then this one says, can I use transcript issued to another school to pursue admission in Canada?
I mean, if it's the scanned copy, you can use it. So maybe you remove the cover page where it listed the place where it was
Specific.
addressed to. But yes, because just like Marina said, it's something you're providing yourself. After you get the admission, they will ask you to send or ask you to contact your school to send the original copy directly.
Okay. So this question I think is very interesting. I got this on YouTube. It says, about studying medicine in Canada, would the person prefer should the person apply for a master's in any Canadian university before applying for permanent residence, or will he or she come to Canada as a PR before applying to medical school? Okay, so basically what the person is trying to say is what's the likelihood that as an international student you can study medicine in Canada?
Right, very good question. So medicine is a highly competitive profession in Canada. As a matter of fact, there are more Canadians who want to do medicine and could not get into medical school in Canada. I think across Canada, I think we only have either 13 or 17 medical schools. I can't remember the number right now, but I know for sure it's less than 20 medical schools all over Canada. A lot of the schools will require you to at least be a permanent resident before you are even eligible to apply for medical schools.
Yeah.
There are about 2 or 3 medical schools that accept international students in Canada. But keep in mind that to even get into medicine in Canada, you probably have done a bachelor's degree in an area. It's just like law too. You can't apply to law school directly. You must have a bachelor's degree in an area and all that. But those schools reserve certain quota. I think just about 6%. Just about 6% of the students they admit, and it's about 2 universities in Ontario, 2 or 3 universities that accept international students. That's number one. The chances of getting it directly from outside Canada is very, very low. Number 2 is that keep in mind that you may have to come and do a bachelor's degree here before you even attempt to apply. And when you're applying, you are competing for very, very limited space. And then number 3 is the financial aspect of it. If you go to check those schools that accept international students, about 6%, their tuition is about $100,000 every year or thereabout. So it's very, very expensive. So those are the things to know.
Self-sponsorship, is it a red flag for applying?
In no way, no. So if you are able to sufficiently show that you're self-sponsoring yourself, you have genuine funds, you're able to show the sources of the funds, you've put your documents together in a convincing way, it is not a red flag in any way.
Okay.
And I think that ties to the other questions I've been seeing on age.
Yeah.
There's nothing anywhere that says, this is the age limit or anywhere.
True.
It's just a matter of how you are able to present your application and convince either the admission committee or the visa officer on why you are applying at that age.
Exactly. And I think this is a bit of a spin-off from the last one. Does it apply to pharmacy? Can you apply as an undergraduate or?
So pharmacy also is also very competitive. So it goes. It's just like the same thing like the law and the medicine and all that. You can apply directly, but it's also very, very competitive to get into pharmacy. You may have to come in and take maybe general sciences for maybe first year or second year and then transition into pharmacy. And just like the same thing for people who want to do a full undergraduate degree in nursing. So you first of all come and do general sciences and then transition into nursing as well.
Okay. And this question, I think, is talking a bit about dual intent. What would you advise the PR applicant applying to schools prior to a final decision? How do you explain? Yeah.
It's an option to consider, and the law has made provision for that. And that's what Marina mentioned is dual intent. This year, because of the delay in express entry applications and processing, we had a lot of people who considered the study route and got it. Number one thing I encourage people is that do not lie about that because they can find it. Your unique client identification number is going to remain the same. So even when you apply for study permit, they can already trace that you have a profile or something. So state that, but make sure in your letter of explanation, you create a section. It's just like applying for a second master's degree as well. Make sure you anticipate the questions or the concerns they may have, which for somebody who already has a PR application is what happens if you come to Canada as a student and your PR is not successful. Would you violate the conditions of your study permit or leave Canada when you are expected to leave Canada? So provide explanation. I like the fact that even if my PR application does not go through, I would adhere to the conditions of my study permit. A lot of people do it every year and they are successful with it.
Okay. So can one apply for PR within the 2-year postgraduate work permit, especially after spending a full year of work experience?
Yes, you can. As long as you meet the requirement for a PR at any time, even as an international student. I transitioned directly from study permit to PR. I haven't completed the master's degree, so I did not even get a postgraduate work permit at all. Because then I was able to use the previous work experience from home and I did federal skilled worker. But if you want to acquire a full year work experience to go under the Canadian experience class, except to get a scholarship that requires you to go back home after your program, that's when you may not be able to apply for PR. But aside that, yes, you can.
What would you recommend for visa application anxiety? It's NSPPD. Join there every morning. Drink cold water, the blood of Jesus. That's what you need.
I mean, just be patient. Keep your mind off it. Put in the application. I know it's very, very difficult. Go ahead with other things you're doing. Be practically engaged so that when it comes, you have other things going on with you. So I know it's a difficult one. I think I made a question yesterday and said, maybe Canada should consider doing interviews like US. Let people go and face the interview and know their fate immediately. There are people that have applied for 6 months, 5 months, 7 months, even longer than that are still waiting.
The silence is very deafening, honestly.
I know.
And it's the backlog, like what we said in the beginning. The backlog is a lot.
Yes.
I'm trying to scroll, it's almost an hour, 30 minutes. We're just going to be wrapping this up. So I'm looking for questions that... So what if you don't have previous qualification, previous publications? You talked about these things increase your chances. If they are not there, it means your chances are lower.
Right. So that's just it. If you're coming for a research program, you did a bachelor's degree, you did a thesis, try and make a publication out of that. Those are things that would increase your chances. There are things because they are competing with people that have those things.
Of people, true.
And
I think it relates to this question as well. If the admission requirement is 3.0 and mine is 2.9, you don't meet the minimum requirement. That's what it means. So your chances are lower. And same thing with this one. 3.2/5, you're competing with people who are in the 4-pointers. You know,
And
your
I've
chances are
highlighted
just
some
lower.
other things you can also do in addition to that. So if you missed
Exactly.
that, watch the beginning
The
of
replay,
today's session, and you'll catch up on all the other things you can do as well.
Okay, maybe this might be the last question we'll take, because we're getting questions in areas that you have already talked on.
Right.
Can my spouse come to Canada with a visitor's visa and then apply for work permit when in Canada, or will my spouse have to extend their work permit during my postgraduate work permit year?
The answer to those two questions, the answers are yes. Yes, you can apply for a work permit from within Canada. Now, the thing is that when you get a study permit and your spouse applies for an open work permit, they only give them the open work permit based on your own duration.
Exactly.
Which means once your study permit expires and you apply for postgraduate work permit, they have to also apply to extend their open work permit again. So that's why I said the answers to both questions are yes.
Okay. So this question is talking about applying to Selkirk College. I don't know what exactly about Selkirk College. Yeah. If the school is, I'm trying to believe that the person is asking about this kind of schools to apply to. As far as they are eligible to accept international students and they qualify for postgraduate work permit program.
Exactly.
If your intention is to remain in Canada after the program, then you want to make sure you are applying to schools that make that process possible for you.
Yeah. So what Marina is talking about is that if you want to come to Canada, which is probably the final thing we can talk about, is to make sure you are applying to a school that is a designated learning institution. If you want to know schools that are designated learning institutions, just go on Google and search DLI Canada. It will take you to a place where you can check for particular schools and all that. That's number one. If you now have the intention to stay back in Canada, make sure the program and the school you're applying to is a program that is eligible for postgraduate work permit. Or else, either you leave Canada after your program, or you go and do the extra work of looking for an employer that is ready to sponsor you for a work permit. But why would you want to do that if easily you can just apply to a program that, quote and unquote, automatically after your program, you just apply for your work permit directly?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So this will be the last question we'll take, and I've seen a couple of similar ones. People are trying to understand the transition from after I finish studying to permanent residence. What does that process look like?
So what the process looks like is that it's not the master's degree that gives you the PR.
Exactly.
So note that very well. Study permits coming as an international student is different from PR. What a master's program can help you do is to give you more things that will make you eligible for PR. A 16-month master's program is a 2 academic session program that will give you a 3-year postgraduate work permit. When you get a 3-year postgraduate work permit, the onus now lies on you to do the other things you need to make you eligible for a PR under any PR category you're eligible for. Maybe working for 1 year to do Canadian experience class, maybe using your work experience from outside Canada, maybe applying for provincial nomination in the province, maybe considering other programs like the Atlantic Immigrant Pilot Program, and then making sure you do that within the period of when you have a valid work permit.
Okay. Well, that will be the last question I will take for this session. You guys, we have been talking for an hour and a half. Olu, thank you so much for your time. Everybody who's on this live, please just put a round of applause in the comment section to thank Olu for his time. Olu is a busy person. To pin him down for an hour and a half on a weekend is not typical. So please, let's just show appreciation. Say thank you to Olu in the comment section. If you haven't liked this video yet, please do well to like it, okay? So that other people can see it. If you like the videos, it boosts the visibility so more people will see it. That's why we encourage you to like the video. So please do well to like it. Thank you so much for your time, Olu. Hopefully, if you met this halfway or you didn't hear a lot, you'll be able to catch the replay. It's going to be live on my channel right after this. And you want to do when you're watching the replay to try to check the live chat as well, so that you can see the websites that Olu listed in the course of the conversation. I'll see if I can copy all of them and put in the description box, but that's a good way to check out all the information, all the resources, all the websites that were listed. Between this conversation, Olu's Twitter page, and all those websites, you will definitely find all the answers that you need relating to this. Thank you a lot, Olu, for joining us today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everyone who was able to join us. We're going to be ending the broadcast here. Thank you so much, everyone. Please do well to share this video. The resources that were shared here for free, these resources are shared for free. So please do well to share it so that as many people will have access to this information as possible. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your Sunday, and I wish you an amazing week ahead. Thank you so much, Olu.
All right. Thank you,
Have a great day,
everyone. Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.